How's it going, Internet? It's Cameron with Venus Theory. Hopefully this is working. I'm getting like weird errors for streaming today. But anyways, yeah, welcome to another episode of Cameron Decides to Stream. So today I wanted to do a stream about Kilohearts Phaseplant, and I was like, oh, cool, Phaseplant. And then I was like, I also want to do a video about sound design for beat producers, because I think there are a lot of really good videos out there, and I think there are a lot of really bad videos out there showing how to make, kicks and snares and whatnot. So I wanted to make a video kind of focused on doing sound design for beat production, trap producers, hip hop producers, whatever. Just show some of my tips and things, and then also just use Phaseplant. So my goal today is to make a beat just from the ground up, and I'm just going to design everything. Because, sound design stuff for trap and whatnot is not that hard, and there are a lot of drum kits out there that are just kind of recycled kits of the same sound because, everyone and their mom has a chop snare. So I figured, I would just kind of show how to make your own stuff and play around with Phaseplant. And tomorrow's my birthday, so yay. Not that has anything to do with the stream, just, I was like, oh, Friday weekend, let's stream and hang out. Scared the heck out of me with that intro. Yeah, but yeah, all right. Let's get DAWg open here. Let's get a piano going. Sweet. All right. So we are in DAWg, and we are going to pray that my chat is working. I don't know what the deal has been with chat, but it's been a huge pain in the ass lately. Okay. So yeah, I got a piano. First, I guess let's pick a key for the beat. Oh, actually, I kind of like that. What was that? Yeah, okay, so we'll do that. So we're going to do like, I don't know, we'll just do something simple. Okay, so trap tempo, 145, sure. Yo, Venus, long time no see, remember me? Oh, Connect You Power. Yeah, how's it going, man? Happy birthday. Thanks. Yeah, I'm going to be fucking 26, old as dirt. Okay, so we're going to do the key of G today. So what did I do? G minor, E flat major, D major. Because the major 5, for whatever reason, seems to be pretty popular. Sick. All right. So I'm just going to kind of sketch out the idea really quickly, and then we're going to start building all of the sounds for this beat. Okay, so let's go ahead and just make this 4 bars. And then major 5 for the last bar. Something like this, I think, is going to be the idea. Move that up an octave. Okay. So I know I said we're going to use Phaseplant, but like I said, I'm just going to sketch out. That's going to be the idea here. So we can go ahead and mute that. And let's start off. Let's just kind of lay down the groundwork with some drum synthesis. So I've already done some tutorials about drum synthesis. It's a 2-part series. So you can watch that if you want, but we're just going to build a drum kit from the ground up using Phaseplant. Okay, so when you want to make a kick drum, obviously for trap and beat production, you want those 808 analog style kicks that are really thumpy and crunchy and mean sounding. So this is actually pretty simple to make. So I'm going to start off with a 50 hertz sine wave. We're going to grab an envelope. We're going to make it exponential decay. And we're going to, instead of that, let's do the shift. So I'm just going to shift this up, 20-ish%, and we're just going to start designing this sound. So right now, no matter what note I play, we're going to get this big 50 hertz sine wave. And this might be good to show with an oscilloscope. So I'm going to go ahead and scale this down a bit. Okay, so right now, if I just play this, we have this big long sine wave that's got a pitch envelope. If I take away the pitch envelope, not really that exciting or interesting. Let's go ahead and set the trigger mode. So this is the core thing we're going to start working with. So first off, we're going to add this pitch envelope. And you can see it's already starting to look like a kick waveform. There's a bunch of stuff and then a smooth, big, deep tone. So that's kind of the core principle of kicks. So to design a kick, we're going to drop the sustain down and we're just going to play with this decay. I usually make it relatively short, about 15 to 50 milliseconds. We'll go for like 35. Okay, so now we've got a nice short kick. Let's up the decay to maybe 200 milliseconds. So you can do this in any synth, literally just a sine wave and a pitch envelope. But it doesn't really sound like a nice, trap kick drum. So the next thing I would do is add some noise. Now what I'm going to do with the noise is we're going to throw a filter in here. I'm going to filter out this noise using a bandpass, and we're going to make this real short. So we're going to kill off all sustain, and we're going to set the decay to maybe, let's do 8 milliseconds. And then I'm going to up the attack on the sine wave to 8 milliseconds, maybe 10. We'll see. Let's go with 10. So this is going to leave the sine wave leading up just a little bit over 10 milliseconds, but before that, we're going to have this attack of this noise right away, which is going to give us this really nice punchy kick, and this is going to be our transient. So this sounds a bit EDM, for what we're going for, but for the time being, we can use this and just shape it using the bandpass filter. So we're going to drop this down. There we go. So now we've got a nice big fat kick drum. Let's take a look at our oscilloscope. Cool. So we can see we've got the kind of core thing going. The transients may be a bit quiet and the tone is a bit louder. So we're just going to adjust the balance slightly. So let's go ahead and zero out. There we go. That's looking a bit more kick drum like. So within Phaseplant, we can actually finish out most of the sound. So one of the big things is going to be compression and distortion. So I'm going to go ahead and drop in a compressor first. I'll set the ratio to maybe 4:1. And I'm going to start dropping this threshold probably for about 8 to 10 dB. So right around there is seeming pretty good. So what we can do is adjust the attack and release to shape this kick drum. So if I up the attack, you'll see it gets a bit thicker. We're letting more of that transient through. If I make the attack too short, it's a very, squashed signal, which can be all right. With a lot of makeup gain, you can make a pretty solid kick that way. But I like to up the attack, usually about like that. So that way we get a lot of that transient coming through, and then the compressor's going to squeeze it. So we can adjust the release as well. And if you watch carefully here, you'll see how it's kind of reshaping that waveform. So relatively long release, about like that, and that should be good. Okay, so now we need that trap sound, which is going to come from saturating and distorting and stuff. So let's go ahead and leave this at 0. I'm going to start mixing this in. So you see we're getting a bit too hard there. So what I like to do instead of this is actually just use something like M Saturator. This is a free plugin. And we're just going to use this to shape this. So we're going to go to clip mode. We'll do clip 1. So now we're getting that nice, big, heavy kick drum sound. So I'm getting this really heavy. So now we just need to shorten this up a bit. So let's do 160 milliseconds. Cool. Now we've got this nice big fat kick drum. From here, we can maybe drop this slightly. Maybe change the mode. Let's do soft 2. Yeah, let's go for clipping. Cool, so now we've got our big thumpy kick drum. So from here, we could do something like using a vocoder with noise. So I'm gonna load this up. So basically, this is a pretty popular trick. You might have seen this. I don't know if I've done this on stream. I use this trick a lot. Anyways, so what I'm gonna do is if we, let's go ahead and open this up and I'll show you. So if I show my devices, I'm going to use noise. So what this vocoder is doing is I'm going to use this kick drum as a modulator for noise, and the noise is going to be the carrier of the signal. So this is getting a bit more advanced. So, you know, right now you have a pretty solid kick that you could just go with, but we're gonna go one level further. So I'm gonna get the main, this is our kick drum sound, and I'm gonna put that as the modulator for the vocoder. And inside of Europa, you can see we have white noise. So now, we have that, which is pretty cool. So now I'm gonna drop the dry wet. That just gives us a bit more character to this sound. So we can maybe do the saturator afterward. Cool, that sounds good. And then from here, let's maybe grab just a nice analog EQ. So I'm gonna use retro Q. I like this for kicks a lot. So I'm gonna click this here, which is going to allow me to have saturation on the output. Boost those lows a bit. Maybe drive up the output slightly. And there we go. Nice big fat kick drum. So let's go ahead and just kind of work this into our beat. Okay, so I think that's good. From here, we might EQ this a bit more. Let's grab a slice EQ. Bring out some of that 1K, nice bark. Let's get rid of some of this thumpy, muddy. We might duck out some of this sub as well. This way we just get a bit more headroom, especially as we get into stuff like the 808. So there we go, really big trap kick drum, really straightforward. Without that vocoder, really kind of an unnecessary step. So I'm just using saturation and EQ after that. Totally acceptable result as well. The vocoder just adds some nice character. One other tip for trap drums especially, this is something I do all the time. I'm gonna increase this a bit. And then I'm gonna take a look at chat because I see it's like blowing up down there. One other tip for kick drums is loading samples. So this is something I do quite a bit. So we could grab just like a transient noise. So I made this. I don't know what that is. You can hear it's just like random Foley. So we could just, you know, make a nice transient using some Foley sounds. And you see that just gives it a totally different character. We could do that. We could grab the Chop Shop sample pack I did. You could do some hi-hats or a snare even. So this is like a nice 808 snare. Filter that. One of my favorites though is like cymbals. So we can maybe grab like a hi-hat. Or a clap even. Let's do... Yeah, so this is like a nice open hat. We could pitch this around. And see how that gives us like kind of a cool crunch. Okay, so let's move on to some snares next, but let's take a look at chat first. Your beats are going awesome lately. Thank you. I'm 28. Nice. Yeah, I'm getting there. Douglas, what's up, mate? Hey, how's it going, man? Have you ever heard of UK Garage? Yes, UK Garage is a pretty big thing I've been into. But, you know, I'm a future garage person myself. But yeah, UK Garage I'm pretty familiar with. Drum Pad Machine is looking for a new sound designer. I might have to look into that. I'm sure they'll probably get in touch with me at some point. I get all sorts of random messages anymore for that. Icy Beats, filter and distort it and you got a good kick. Yep, exactly. Jim Shannon, hi there. Hey, how's it going, man? In trap, we don't want that knock like EDM, that toppy sound. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, for that, we can use things like EQ or other tools. Even distortion, you can actually end up removing top end with some kind of distortion. So yeah, just, you know, taking this little high shelf here, you could even, you know, use a low pass. It's like maybe a 12 dB per octave low pass here at about 4K. That's another way to get that nice thick sound. And my music, different types of music together, so EDM kick and a trap beat. Yeah, no, totally. Like, there's really no rules to this kind of stuff at all. Wouldn't that mess with the phase? Doesn't seem like a linear phase EQ. Yeah, so slice EQ here is not linear phase, at least to my knowledge. But it's got all sorts of like oversampling and stuff in it. But yeah, you know, in this case, we could use a linear phase EQ for certain stuff, but we're not really doing all that much that's that extreme, maybe besides this high pass. So, you know, in terms of phase relationships, we could maybe smooth out this high pass to be more like this, which is probably 24. Yes, this is 24 dB. So, you know, if you're doing something ridiculous like this, which I think this goes up to like 96. So, you know, in the case like that, you might do something with a linear phase EQ, but, you know, up to about 24 to 36 dB per octave slope filters, you're usually pretty safe. Okay, so we've got this going on. I'm going to reshape this just a bit. There we go. So that sounded good. Okay, so let's talk about snares next. Okay, so every trap song has some kind of like 808 snare, right? Like every hip hop trap song, that's what everyone uses. And like I said at the beginning, everyone and their mother has a chop snare. But you can actually make them yourself. It's really not difficult. And it, you know, and I think it's good to learn sound design, especially as a beat producer, because like I said, you know, there's so many just like recycled kits out there that, you know, you end up having the same sounds as everyone else. So, you know, having some degree of comfort in making your own is really good. You know, it means you have something that no one else is going to have. And on top of that, you know, it just gives you a bit of an edge because you can do things that other people are just too lazy to do, even though it's really not that hard. Okay, so let's talk about the 808 snare. So 808, the actual 808 has these fancy, I believe they're called bridge T circuits. So you can't exactly emulate the way an 808 shapes sound, but you can get pretty damn close with just basic stuff. So the quintessential 808 snare goes something like this. So we're going to drop our harmonic to 0 and we're going to shift this up. Let's do starting point, probably about 280 hertz. Okay, so again, this really sounds like nothing. So we're going to shape this using the envelope first. So let's go ahead and set a decay of maybe 50 milliseconds. Pretty solid. Let's up that to maybe 320. Maybe a bit higher. Let's do 410. There we go. So that sounded pretty solid. All right, so now we need that pitch envelope again. So I'm going to design one like this. And what I'm doing here, in case you're wondering, I think some DAWs call this a tension curve. But yeah, this is just the slope of the curve. So I'm just going to create an exponential curve. So it decays very, very quickly. If it's linear, where it's more like just a flat slope, it's just going to sound a bit funky. So, all right, we're going to tie this to the shift, and this is going to give us a nice pitch shift. Let's maybe adjust the timing. Okay. Sweet. Okay, so now we're going to add some noise. So we have our tone, and that's the really easy part. Now the noise, I think, is where people get this wrong. So a lot of production videos I've seen that are like trap producer focused, they tell you to do this, where it's just noise. And this is just pure white noise right now. And they do something like this. And they throw that on top of this tone. Which is okay, it's just not really the best way to go about doing that, because in case you don't know, white noise is equal energy across the entire frequency spectrum. So if we take a spectrum analyzer and take a look at this right now, so this is just the white noise portion of this sound. You'll see we've got energy all the way down to like 20 hertz, and we really don't need that in a snare. Because, you know, this is like low stuff that's going to be kick and 808. So the first thing you're going to want to do is high pass this. So the Q here is the resonance of the filter, and this is something that's really fun to experiment with. So right now, I can go ahead and just create a filter, and you see we're getting rid of all this stuff. It's not nearly as much energy down there. If I increase this Q, you can get some really interesting artifacts. And this is, I think, a really big key to trap sound design for 808s, or like 808 style drums from scratch. So this high resonance filters. You can really shape the sound quite a bit. And once we bring that tone back in and layer these things together, you can see that just by very slightly adjusting these cutoff points on this noise with the high resonant filters, there's a whole array of snares you can get from that. And then, you know, we just control the tuning of the drum here. So this is maybe a bit extreme, but cool. So then we can just do a quick compressor. Let's do 3.5 to 1 or so. Nothing too crazy. Now let's go for maybe about 5 dB gain reduction here. And same thing, the attack and release are going to be very important. So with a higher attack, you're going to let more of that transient through. So for things like drums, this is very important. Cool. And we'll add just a little bit of distortion here. Cool, so let's go ahead and play with this just a bit, maybe 90 milliseconds. That's a bit much, let's do 65. Okay, and let's up this, maybe 80. Cool, so that's sounding all right, but we can take this a step further, which I'll show you in just a minute. So if we're doing just a quick little beat, let's go ahead and throw on so that noise needs a bit more of a tail. Okay, so that's getting a bit better. Let's shape this high cut, or low cut rather. Cool, that's sounding nice and snappy. So from here, we might want to layer in kind of that chop snare sound. So in case you don't know, the chop snare, the infamous sample, is made by layering a clav sample from an 808 with the snare sample. So this is actually pretty easy to replicate. If we go ahead and open up, I'll just show you really quick. Voltage Modular has a set of 808 inspired circuits. So this is clav or clave, whatever you want to call it. If we just do this right now, it sounds like this. And that's that like ticky, I don't know, like ice pick on glass sound that the chop snare has. And this is actually made, again, using that bridge T network circuit. But you can do this pretty simply because this, in the actual 808, this is made with the same circuit as the rim shot. So this is just a triangle wave with a bandpass filter. And you can just hear it's very, very high pitched and it's very, very short. So very, very straightforward to make. So within Phaseplant, let's go ahead and disable all this stuff. So that's our tone, that's our noise, this is our effects. So we can actually make this really, really easily. So we're gonna make a triangle, harmonic to 0, and up the shift real high. And we need an output. Okay, so that's super annoying, right? So let's go ahead and drop the sustain down and drop this decay really, really short. Okay, let's add in that bandpass filter. Up the resonance quite a bit. And adjust the tension curve here just a bit. It's kind of a magical point. Right about there seems good. So now if we bring back in our tone and our noise, this is a really easy kind of chop snare sound. So I would just duplicate this oscillator and detune these slightly. Cool. And we can just kind of adjust the balance here. Add those effects back in. Cool, and just retune this. Cool, and that's a chop snare. So you could also do this with Foley and all sorts of other things. That's a very easy way to do it. So this kick drum is maybe a bit long. I'm not quite liking it. So let's do like 115 milliseconds of decay for the tone layer of the kick drum. So let's add a second layer to the snare for the tone. And blend this together. Cool, there we go. Total easy trap snare. You know, it takes like 5 minutes. Okay, so now let's move on to some cymbals and stuff. And then we're gonna get into like pads and whatnot. All right, let's take a look at chat really quick. Linear phase would have caused delay, I'd assume. Yeah, some linear phase EQs actually have a latency compensation feature. Not all of them do, but you know, linear phase stuff, I really only use that when I'm doing stuff on a master. It's really rare that I do linear phase EQ for sound design. Unless I'm doing pretty broad spectrum stuff, especially things involving like noise, because, you know, noise is very spectrum filling. So in cases like that, you know, it's important to kind of keep in mind phase relationships. But for the most part, and, you know, and especially in the approach of like trap production, you know, a lot of trap producers just don't even bother with that. So, you know, it's kind of part of the approach, if you will. Clark Spent, I've been told not to cut low frequencies since we can't hear them, and leave 30 hertz low cuts for the mastering. I assume you're phrasing that as a question. So yeah, that's a good point. A lot of the time, you're not going to have big speakers that are able to reproduce sounds that low, because 30 hertz is very, very, very low. Most adults can't really even register that. You know, even children really, because 30 hertz is getting more into the range of you feel it more than you hear it. So when you're doing stuff like that, one of the really important tools, like I showed, if we do the noise. So if we go back to white noise and do, we could just use slice EQ, because this is going to be a bit bigger. So let's go to exact. So right now, if I play white noise, it's going to fill out that whole spectrum. So even all the way down to down here, which you'll hear if I do a really steep cut and start moving this up. There's really not much of an audible difference. Maybe on stream this doesn't come through because of the sound quality of the stream, but you can try this yourself. But there's really not much of an audible difference up until about 50-ish hertz. So when you're doing low cuts and stuff, the important thing to keep in mind that just because this is going to be nice and big, we could take a look. So there's quite a bit of energy here. So what I'm going to show you here is the amount of difference this makes in the meter versus the perceived volume. So if you watch this meter here, if I cut out a lot of this low end stuff, the kick is still a pretty loud sample. But once I start bringing in this low end energy, you'll see how fast that meter over there starts to rise. So that's a really important concept because low frequency content takes a lot of energy to reproduce low end, because when you do that, you're freeing up a lot of space for other stuff. So, you know, obviously on like a kick drum or your sub or your 808s, you're not going to want to cut out, you know, everything below 50 hertz, because that's just some arbitrary number that you probably picked up off some article somewhere. I know I used to do that when I was starting out with production. But rather you want to keep in mind, you know, how much sonic energy things are consuming. Your snare drum, for instance, does not need 50 hertz in it. You know, same with hi-hats and stuff. So if you have like a vinyl hi-hat sample, vinyl has a lot of low, rumbly mechanical noise, you know, below the 100 hertz region. And your hi-hat sample is never going to need that energy. And what it is going to do is screw up your mastering and everything else later down the line, because it's consuming a lot of real estate in the frequency spectrum and in the overall volume spectrum. You're going to have a lot of buildup of a lot of stuff that, you know, in the end creates a much bigger sum of problems than it would if you just cut it out. So, you know, like it's a pretty simple thing, but it gets pretty complicated. But the biggest thing to take away from it is just, you know, you want to make sure you're freeing up all that headroom for later phases, like, you know, mastering and the final mixdown and stuff like that. Yeah, Ronald's a good point there. Brian Johnson, yo. Hey, how's it going? Fat kick, thank you. Snare fine. Dope. I don't know what's the circle in the middle of the screen. Stream keeps restarting. I don't know. Yeah, looks all good here, man. Okay, so let's move on to hi-hats. So this is another thing I think a lot of the beat channels on YouTube seem to get wrong. So again, normally what they will do is something like this, where they will say, take white noise and do this. And that does sound like a hi-hat, especially as you add in a filter. So if we do the old high-pass filter here to cut off all that low-frequency energy, that sounds a lot like a hi-hat, and it could work. But I think there are a few extra steps people miss out on. So if we listen to, let's go to my 808 session. So if we listen to the 808 hat, and even the closed hat, there's this kind of interesting metallic sound that, you know, it's not made from noise. And the cymbals especially, this is very apparent. So the actual 808 is going to make cymbals and stuff out of a bunch of square waves. I think it's like 6 or 8 square oscillators, and they're FMing each other. And when you FM squares with other squares, especially as you tune them up very high, you get essentially noise. But because of the way FM works, you also get these kind of cool metallic sounds. So we're going to do this simply and in a way you could do in Serum or any other synth. So I'm going to grab 2 square wave oscillators. I'm going to turn one down and turn the other down, so there's no harmonic relationship. So right now we just get nothing. We just get a click. So let's go ahead and shift this up real high. Let's do like 3K. Wow, that's incredibly annoying. Okay, let's shift this one up real high, like 4K, somewhere in there. Now I'm going to do phase modulation, which is, for the most part, for all intents and purposes, for most synthesizers, this is FM. But it's actually not. It's phase modulation. Anyway, so now, since we introduced this phase modulation from two detuned square oscillators, bam, you get that nice metallic sound. So what you could do if you have Phaseplant or another synth modular especially, you could just have a bunch of these tuned differently, FMing each other, boom, you would get something roughly equivalent to that. So in this case, we're going to keep things relatively simple. So I'm going to add a new group, and we're going to add a noise oscillator. We're going to add some filters again. We're going to add an output. Okay, so we need a high pass and a low pass. And we're going to do the same thing we did with the snare. We're just going to open these up, and I'm going to crank the resonance pretty high. We're going to shape it with the envelope, and boom, done. So we need to first, let's tame this metallic sound. So let's maybe drop this. Okay. Let's open up that attack. That sounds good. Sure. And again, there's a lot of timbral differences you can get by just very, very slightly changing the tuning here. So let's go ahead and shape this noise. Cool. Let's tune or drop the volume down. Let's go ahead and shave off all that low end. Cool. And add a nice resonant low pass. There we go. Cool. Let's bring in that metallic sound. Check that out. You get that really cool metallic sound really easily. So let's go ahead and just shape this a bit more. Okay, so we're starting to get some weird artifacts. Let's go ahead and introduce a filter here. We'll do a high pass. All right, let's shape this a bit more. Cool. I suppose that's 16ths actually. Whoops. All right, there we go. Now we got eighth notes. Okay, so let's go ahead and just kind of blend this together. So there's still some low end stuff going on here in these hats. So we're just going to go in very carefully with some notches. And I'm just listening for stuff that bothers me. And then we're just going to cut it out. We'll add maybe just the tiniest little boost up here. And then just shave off some of this. So from here, you could actually introduce like a bit crusher. There we go. You know, there's a totally different hat sound. Let's bring the snare. Let's drop that. All right. Bring that kick in. So we need to add a bit of release. So what I'm changing here is the amount of the pitch envelope to the kick. Okay. Cool. So that's our drum kit from scratch. All right, let's go ahead and duplicate that snare and make just kind of an alternate version. Okay. So now we could just add in some little extra snare hits. But what we could actually do from here is just bounce this out as a new sample. And this is where you can get into like the more typical trap sound. So let's go ahead and just shorten this up. I'm gonna save this project really quick. I'm gonna bounce this to a new sample. Right. Let's go ahead and turn off the monitoring because that's annoying as hell. Okay, let's add a new sampler track. So I'm just gonna open this up as a sampler. Sick. And drop this on in. So now we can create those nice pitched snare rolls. So that's maybe a bit. Let's move those up. So that's maybe a bit too quick of a roll. Whoops. Cool. And, you know, that's not really the greatest drum beat right now, but that's fine. Okay, so we've got our drums and stuff, and now we need to start worrying about the actual melodic elements. We might go and do the same thing with the hat here. Let's go ahead and just render a sample of the hat. This way we can get just kind of that same, you know, thing going on, those nice pitched hat rolls. Okay. So this is going to be the hat sample. Man, that drives me insane when it does that. I'm pretty sure I shut auto monitor off and it still does it. Okay, so let's grab a new sampler. Sweet. Drop this hat sample in. Turn on pitch tracking. Let's go ahead and copy our hat pattern over here, and we can just listen through and add some quick hat rolls. So let's do one right here. And let's do the good old eighth note triplet. Da, da, da. Cool. So let's call that good enough for now. I'm gonna mute that. Okay, so those are our sounds, and we've got kind of our core samples, and we're ready to start making some melodic stuff. All right, so trap bells. Let's do trap bells because that's a pretty quintessential sound. Let's catch up on chat here. It's the YouTube buffer icon. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's probably what the circle is in the middle of the stream, man. I don't know why I didn't think of that at all. Vic2net, hey man, recording this stream will be available after the stream. Want to watch this tutorial? Yep, as always, the stream will be posted. You can check it out later. I'll try and get some timestamps as well. 808 samples are made. Yeah. Sounds awesome. Thanks. Crash cymbals have always been the hardest for me to make. Synthesized crashes. Yeah, we could do crashes really quick. Sorry, I'm like not paying all that much attention to chat. There's just like a lot of ground to cover in this stream. Okay, I should probably start naming this. So this is hat. This is snare roll, snare rule. Hat roll, and then we've got snare kick. Okay. And this stuff is all just... Let's just unmute this and boop, boop, boop. Disable stuff. Okay, so stuff I don't care about. All right, let's do a symbol. So like I said, let's go ahead and name this as well. God damn it, Bitwig. Okay, so this is gonna be the symbol. So yeah, like I said, the 808 symbol sound is made with a bunch of square waves. So we can actually do that. You're not gonna be able to do this in Serum. So you wouldn't need Phaseplant or some kind of modular / semi-modular thing. All right, so we're gonna turn the harmonic all to 0. And I personally like to layer this with a bit of noise. I'm not sure if the 808 does that. I think, to my memory, it's all just a bunch of squares. So let's go ahead and drop this down. And nice long decay. And we're gonna start introducing a bunch of phase modulation. So I find that personally cymbals are very hard, as you noted. You know, it's a really delicate balancing act. So, you know, your mileage may vary. It does take a long time to kind of get this sound right. It's probably not going to end up perfect right now, but we can, you know, we can try. We can get close. But you'll see as I start introducing phase modulation from each of these, the initial one up here, which was a square, now starts to look a lot more like just noise, which is why this stuff is pretty cool. So we're just going to start introducing more and more and more. And now, this is probably going to be pretty piercing, and we are going to need to introduce a filter because we're going to get a lot of low end. There we go. So we just got to kind of tune this. Change the amount. Okay, so not perfect, but close. So from here, we could just add a little bit of noise. Like I said, this is just my approach to doing this most of the time. Typically, when I need cymbals, I just go out and record real cymbals. But to that point, layering this with a real cymbal would probably give you much better results. So now let's go ahead and just introduce the levels of each one at a time. So by no means is that a perfect cymbal sound, but for what we're doing here today, pretty okay. You know, like I said, not great, but decent. There we go. That sounded all right. Yeah, something like that, you know. That's pretty loud in the mix. But, you know, effectively that's an 808. That's an entire, you know, sample pack of drum kits right there. So, you could easily modify this whole thing. So, okay, yeah, let's move on to plucks and stuff. So, I guess let's start off with just kind of, like some trap bell, trap lead, that kind of stuff. Okay, so a lot of trap sound design is pretty simple. A lot of it is very straightforward, and I think that stems from the way a lot of these sounds were created, was using, old equipment. Like I said, the 808 drum machine is obviously super famous, and it's old, and, old technology didn't have that much to work with. It was all basic oscillators and just really smart people figuring out how to do cool stuff with them. So a lot of the same stuff applies to things like leads and pads and whatever. And even if you listen to a lot of the modern producers, like some of my favorites, I really like Black. I like some of the darker Drake stuff. Really dig Always Never. Those guys are great. And, a lot of that stuff, if you listen to it, it's actually pretty simple stuff with just a lot of effects, I find. So heavily modulated using phasers and flangers and delays and whatnot. But it all starts pretty straightforward. So let's go ahead and start things off here with a nice kind of trap bell pluck thing. Once I start making it, you'll hear what I'm doing right away. So we're going to start off with a square wave. Cool. Sounding pretty good. Let's go ahead and up that an octave. So I'm going to start things off with a bandpass filter. And we're going to create an envelope for that filter. So when we play a key, it's going to move. We're going to make this polyphonic. So that's a lot of trap bells right there. Maybe just a bit lower and a bit more resonant. And if you add like a big reverb to this and maybe like a bit crusher and a low pass filter, let's grab like the ladder filter, for instance. Something like this. That's like every Nexus library ever made. If we opened up this ladder filter and maybe made this a bit crunchier on the bit crushing side of things. There's your quintessential like lo-fi trap bell lead. But yeah, bells, square waves, squares and triangles, really pretty simple stuff. And if you added just like a little bit of FM, we could do that like that maybe. Let's up the harmonic ratio. Actually I kind of like that. Let's roll with that. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. And then we can start adding modulation. But let's go ahead and write out our melody for this beat. My hats are fine, but when I synthesize crashes, it sounds static because it's sustaining longer. Yeah, one other tip for crashes, while we're on that note, is actually a very, very subtly moving low-pass filter over time. So I'm going to do that. And you can read more about the physics of cymbals. Sound on Sound in particular is a really good in-depth look at how cymbals work. And one of the funny things about cymbals is the way that the sound decays. And it's extremely hard to synthesize because, like I said, everyone's go-to seems to be noise, which is close but not quite. And the other thing is, like, cymbals have sonic energy up to like 100,000 hertz, and like it's a lot, and it's really complicated stuff. So it's hard to get right. But this is something I picked up in the last couple of years, is like using a low pass filter that just kind of slowly shaves off some top. It adds that kind of subtle movement to the sound that gets rid of, that like static, annoying noise feeling. So try that out for sure. Not Ableton. No, I am using Bitwig Studio 3 today. But, you know, DAW, I try to keep things as DAW agnostic as possible. All this is very straightforward. Like I said, you could do this in any synth, really. So let's go ahead and duplicate this piano melody and start doing some sound design for the lead. So I'm trying to think, like, melody-wise. Something like that. So let's go ahead and just do that and do the old, what's the button? Control? Yeah. Okay, so now we need to make this more belly. Okay, so now we need to make that follow our chord progression. So this is going to go to E flat major. And then D major, right? That's, yep. All right, so let's tweak this just a bit. There we go. So, you know, there's our main sound. Okay, so we've got that. And that's pretty much the quintessential bell sound. So from here, we could take this up with some delay, reverb, that kind of stuff. So the next thing I want to design is kind of the lower pad. So this is going to be our bells, and we're going to add effects and stuff to all this in a minute. I'll show you all that, but for right now, I just want to get like the core stuff out of the way. So now we need a pad. So trap pads, again, pretty simple stuff. I've noticed lately a lot of trap producers seem to use just like classic 80s stuff, like 80s sounding pads. And I think that's just because like the 80s are really in vogue again right now. For whatever reason, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to make beats. Cool. So in this case, I'm going to start off with a wavetable. And one of the main reasons I like to do wavetables when I'm doing trap pads is just to add an LFO that's going really slow. And this introduces that nice subtle modulation and change over time. So I'm going to turn off the retrigger, and that's going to let this just move on its own. Okay. Let's add a ladder filter with an envelope. Is that a nice phaser, maybe? Nah, we'll mess with that later. Let's do an ensemble. Big multi-voice chorus like this. Yeah. Real nice, kind of solid trap pad sound there. Let's lower this. Cool. Let's bring that into the track here. Dope, right? Okay, so now the 808. So this is pretty much the Wild West in terms of sound design, but I guess I'll show you guys like how to make an 808, and then from there we can just kind of play with it, and I'll show you just some ideas you can run with. What's going on in Chatland? The short, simple sounds are not too hard, but the longer ones like crashes and rides are hard to sound organic and not static. Yeah, for sure. Archangel Gabriel, hoy, how's it going? Layer them with real sounds. Yeah, no, for sure. That's the way to go, in my opinion. But thanks for the tips. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, like I said, cymbals are incredibly hard to synthesize, and that's mostly just due to like our ears can tell the difference between a real and fake thing. Sometimes adding like a subtle room reverb can really help, just because it puts it in like an acoustic space. Because like when you listen to a sample of like a drum kit, part of that sample inherently is the room it was recorded in. You know, so that's why when we hear a live drum kit versus an electronic kit, you know, there's this very big distinction of like the electronic kits are very dry, because, you know, it's directly going into a console or whatever, you know, there's no physical room it's being recorded in. So even like one thing I've done sometimes actually is like I'll synthesize a drum kit like this, you know, maybe with some more advanced stuff and whatever, but then I'll place like a room mic and I'll just play it really loudly through my speakers and record that. And it adds this extra character you can't quite get any other way. But convolution reverb too, a good convolution reverb with some good impulse responses of live rooms can really help. Could the cymbal sound need some delay maybe? Yeah, no, well, like I said, we'll do some effects and like mixing stuff here in a minute just to show off some of the other techniques. It's Bitwig, trap, bells, reverse, and halftime. Yeah, I just bought halftime actually, not halftime, Time Shaper by Cable Guys, same company, but pretty cool stuff. Okay, so let's talk about 808s. So an 808 is basically just a kick drum, but longer is the way to think of it, and that's pretty much how it was actually. The original like 808 sounds was the 808 kick drum, just, you know, with a really long decay, and then, you know, you could tune it and away you go with this big booming bass sound. So I like to do my 808s by doing 2 octaves of pitch bend and again exponential curve, and we're just going to set up kind of the timing of this. Some people like this really tight transient where it gives you almost this like kind of zapping effect. Other people like the long decay. I just kind of go with like what feels best for that beat or whatever, or in the case of sound design, you know, I just kind of try and add variations, you know, a short one, a long one, whatever. So one of the big things with 808s that every beat channel on YouTube seems to do is something where they just take a sine wave and then they throw it in a saturator like this. Except, you know, they're gonna tune it down because I'm an idiot. So yeah, you know, they take a sine wave with a pitch envelope, throw it into a saturator, and that's what they get, which is fine. I just think there are a couple better ways to go about doing that. So if we look at the oscilloscope here, let's zoom in. Take a look at this waveform for a minute. So that's a square. It's very square-like. The saturator, depending on what mode or algorithm you're using, it might look very different. So if we go to like the clipping ones here, we see these squares have a much bigger edge to them. Versus if we go to the soft, it's a bit more rounded off. So that's one way to design big, heavy 808s, is just distort a sine wave really hard. But one of the other ways you could achieve this same thing, let's get the oscilloscope back up because you're going to need to see that. One of the other ways to achieve the same thing, there There we go. One of the other ways to achieve the same thing is using a square wave instead. So we can use a square wave with a low pass filter. And if you take a look again at the oscilloscope here, let's go ahead and shrink this down. We end up with pretty much, let's zoom out a bit. We end up with pretty much the exact same waveform. And that's, you know, pretty cool. We can use this to our advantage. So what I like to do when I'm designing 808s is something like this. I'm going to do one set with just a sine wave, and then I'm going to make another using a square and a low pass, and I'm going to blend that in. So right now I've got that big, nice, subby, you know, big booming 808. You could try triangle as well for some added harmonics. We're going to go with the sine. We can start blending in the square wave to bring in that big distorted 808 vibe. But this retains the subsonic information, and I think this is a more effective way of doing this, because when you distort, you're going to inherently lose the low end. You can bring that back with EQ, which is what a lot of beat producers seem to do, but I think this is a better way of doing it personally. I just think this is a bit faster and a bit more reliable than EQ. So from here, we can certainly add saturation, but, you know, I think this is a better starting point because we're already, you know, in that big, mean, booming 808 territory, but we've retained that low end information. So now we can saturate that. And that gives you that big, mean, growling 808. You know what I mean? So that's the way I like to do it. So right now, we could definitely just do this as our 808 for this track. Let's go ahead and just open this up. Actually, to save time, let's go and just copy this down. Boom, boom, boom. All right. So let's see. Kick, pattern. This is all going to need to go down an octave. Okay, and let's just set this up to actually be in time with everything. I'm on the triplet grid. That's why I'm stupid. On today's episode of Dumb Things Cameron Did. There we go. That's why that was like way out of time. All right, and boom. Cool, right? You know, we got this big heavy sound going on. So, you know, there's a lot of things you can do to make your 808s more unique. One of my favorites, and something I've noticed lately, is FM. So let's add a new group. This is why Phaseplant is awesome, though. Like, I can just keep adding stuff. All right, so let's add a new group. Analog, analog. Let's add an output. Yay, and let's do sine wave, sine wave. Let's do this one up like, I don't know, 7, whatever. And let's drop this sustain, up this decay, up this attack. And there we can get this cool kind of metallic. So that's a really, really neat way to make some interesting 808s. So one of the other things I think a lot of beat channels do wrong is they leave the sustain all the way up. So when you think about an 808, if you're not familiar with like just the way, you know, waveforms look and stuff, you know, we have this big hit, boom, and then it gets quieter over time, right? That's what gives it that bow, bow, you know, that head bobbin vibe. So that's an important thing to keep in mind, is the sound is going to get quieter over time. And if you have it with the sustain all the way up like this, that level is consistent forever and ever and ever and ever. If we drop the sustain down, so let's drop it to maybe, I don't know, 55%. That's an 8. So let's drop this to 55%. Now we listen. Now it's quieter over time. So let's up the decay time. Let's maybe do, like, I don't know, 600-700 milliseconds, somewhere in there. Whatever. So now I'm fading out that distorted square sound a lot more. We could make just the distorted portion fade faster. This is a very, very powerful sound design tool. Simple stuff like envelopes. Let's fade in that metallic sound. Cool. Yeah, that's pretty much, you know, 808s. There's a lot you can do. You could layer in samples. You could do FM. You could use different waveforms like a saw. You can even make 808s with like a wavetable, you know, just experiment. Because that's a thing. I think a lot of things I get frustrated with when I listen to people's beats is just, it's the same damn 808. Like, you could do so much because it's such a simple sound, and yet people choose to just pick like a sine wave with distortion and go, yeah, which I get that it's a really classic sound, but you know, there's a lot of room to innovate without a lot of effort. But you see now how that 808 is decaying over time. We get this natural ebb and flow to the groove. So yeah, you know, that's a whole trap sound kit from scratch with Phaseplant. And that's, you know, why I think beat producers should sit down and learn how to do this. It's really, really fun. And there's so much to do with it. So let's go ahead and refine this a bit. Let's maybe structure out a bit of the beat. Now we can delete this piano because I don't need it anymore. And then we can take a look at Chatland. Okay, so we don't need these kick and snares and stuff in the beginning of the song. Don't need the 808. Ba-na-na-na. Right. Okay. The old Matthew McConaughey. All right, all right, all right. Let's go ahead and do this and that. And let's cut off this pad right about here. Sweet. Okay, and then we can start enhancing this with some extra tricks, but that sounds really, really solid so far. Okay, Chatland, what's going on, guys? Oh, I missed that one. Great vid, bro. Thanks. Where are you broadcasting from? Thanks. I am broadcasting from my room. I'm in Illinois. I'm in a little teeny tiny town in the middle of nowhere. That's me. How about horn bass taking over D&B right now? Oh, yeah. Well, like the brass sound is pretty... I actually have like a big Phaseplant brass sound I made. I'm thinking about releasing some of my like Phaseplant presets. But this is how I'll have to look it up. I'm not sure if I'm familiar with the exact sound you're talking about. I feel like I've heard it. I don't listen to all that much D&B though. Sorry. But like I listen to mostly like liquid D&B. But yeah, so this is like a horn. That type of thing. So, you know, I assume this might be the same thing. Let's do stereo on the comb filter. Like that? Question mark? It's probably a bit longer if it's like a foghorn. That's like and that's trap brass too. Every stupid festival trap song has that exact sound. If you are referring to this, very, very quickly, I'll walk you through how this is made. It's not super difficult. It's just a bit of weird stuff. So the classic synth brass sound is made from saw waves. So you can make that with just a saw wave and a filter. This is that exact concept leveled up with the cool capabilities of Phaseplant. So I've got 4 saws, detuned, and this is already a little bit brassy. And I'm controlling the gain here. I should have done this with the envelope, but I wanted a bit more control. This was just me being stupid more than anything. So yeah, that's pretty much a brass sound, is a saw that goes, you know, and then you might add like a subtle modulation to the tuning. Maybe like 0.3. Because you know when a horn player blows it, it's a really big sound. You know, it gets more complicated. Okay, anyways, then 4 more, and this is doing phase modulation of the first. Without that phase modulation, it's close, but this phase modulation really just adds something extra. So this is an octave down because I wanted to emulate that brass ensemble feel. And then similarly, 1 more saw here. This is only 3 voices. This is detuned a bit. These aren't detuned as much as the main one. This is an octave up because you'd have a big horn section. So this right now, it sounds like brass, but it also sounds like a super saw, right? So then I introduced 1 more down here. This is just a single saw, and this is doing phase modulation of this octave down one. And again, I'm not totally sure why it is, but just doing that in a little bit of a little teeny amount really adds something to the sound. After that, I added some noise. Same thing, the envelope here is controlling the gain or output. This just adds that airy feel. So right now, if I enable the effects and we get rid of the stuff except the filter is being controlled by this envelope here. If you open up the attack, maybe. That's a pretty classic synth brass sound. Comb filter, this is being key tracked. The comb filter really adds that physical modeling, more lifelike feature. Distortion here, this is distorting pretty hard, about 6 dB on saturate. Distortion is extremely important for good horn sounds because horns are very loud, so it tends to compress the air quite a bit and your mic will sort of clip. But not totally, so distortion's a good way to emulate that. A bit of a high-end and mid-range boost here. A reverb, just to put it in some kind of space. This is a very short 500 millisecond reverb, 50% size, damping, I think up just a bit from the default, and width all the way up. Mixed in 20%. Gives it that bit of room. And then finally, 1 more filter here. This is a peak filter, and I'm just boosting... typically 1 to 5K, just experiment. Relatively wide, and this changes kind of the timbre of the brass. If we go down more, we get a much more, you know, big, beefy, almost lo-fi brass sound, and as we go up, we get a big, open, airy brass stab, but that's how you can make brass. That's not super hard, but it does sound really damn good. Made a few. They're easy. Interested to see camera doing. Yeah, I'll have to look it up. I'm not totally sure if I'm familiar with that. A lot more decay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's pretty close then. Fade Black Walkthrough, which shows bass guitar sample is distortion that does it. Oh, yeah, I'll have to check that out. Great stream today. Thanks. Yeah. Okay. So let's dive back into this. We've got our beat cooked up, as the kids say. Okay. So yeah, first thing we need, gross beat / this. I just bought this the other day. This is Time Shaper from Cable Guys. Damn good. Really, really like it. Okay, so halftime effect. This is what, 4-bar loops? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, in the spirit of things, let's stay in Kilohearts land. All right. Let's add a nice, I like easy verb. Bad tape, by the way. If you are into like lo-fi, hip-hop, trap, really anything, go get Bad Tape. I love the way that thing sounds. And we can actually do band split time. Let's maybe do something with reversing. Or, oh. That sounds cool. So let's move on to this pad. We could do most of this in Phaseplant, really. Let's do a flanger and a phaser. Reverb. Cool. Let's get rid of this gunk. Free up a bit of space here in the mix. Cool. think that sounds all right. Let's do some little bit of mastering. Cool, and that's pretty much a whole beat from scratch, really. You know, from here we might add like some flutes and whatnot. But yeah, now we can go ahead and kind of like mix everything a bit better because I'm not totally happy with that. But more or less, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much trap sound design in a nutshell. Whenever I'm doing sound design work and making trap packs, this is what I do. Just, you know, slight variations on it, really. All right. Let's get that kick and snare going. I want a bit more low. Cool. So let's grab an EQ. There it is. Let's do a little bit of ambience. I don't like that one. Let's do oral river. Just the littlest bit of reverb really helps. All right, let's bring in these hat rolls. Sample is really quiet. So let's maybe throw a nice delay. Let's throw flanger, I guess. Let's EQ that bad boy. Let's do a nice... Cool. Snares. Let's tighten that sample. Maybe the same thing, like a phaser. Let's play with the tuning a bit. do an auto pan. Hats. Tweak these a bit. Okay. Let's EQ a bit more. And I find using just the slightest chorus can add some nice kind of stereo width. Let's do another auto pan. Let's slow this one down a bit. Cool. Let's bring the cymbal in. Who is it that said we need delay? Jim. It was Jim. All right, let's do a quick delay. Cool, and then similarly, a little bit of chorus can really help open them up. Okay, let's do a chorus, maybe a little bit of a flanger. Not much, but a little. Okay, that's sounding all right. And then let's do an easy verb, just a room reverb. Let's go ahead and try and shape the transient of this a bit more. Let's open that noise. There we go. I think that sounds a bit more cymbal-ish. Yeah, that sounds all right. Well, you make the snare -1 octave. Oh, yeah. So that's another good trap trick, actually, is to... Let's go ahead and just... Well, yeah, because we could just render this out. So, yeah, like, one common trick for, like, thicker drums is doing something like that, where you layer these two together. So you could do that. But I think we're going to leave it as it is in this case, because we might fill out with some more snare rolls and things like that. All right, let's bring in these bells and stuff. Pad. .808. And there we go. I think that's a pretty solid little beat. Yeah, what the hell? Let's do a riser. Noise, group. Output, okay. So we need an LFO. This is a one-shot LFO. It's synced to be... And up she goes. Generic riser. What's the generic trap riser? It's that the sound from Splinter Cell. We can do that. This is in the key of G. Okay, so that rises up over 2 bars. Let's get rid of the noise for now. Let's turn that mastering stuff off so this doesn't lag to hell. Okay, so this is going to go up, what? That's like 2 octaves. And it's going to be unipolar, and then it's going to have this like real quick. Maybe it's 3 octaves. Actually, maybe 4. Let's do 48. Maybe it's linear. Something like that. You guys know the sound I'm talking about. I'm sure you do. Okay, and then let's add a filter. Get rid of the rumble from the noise because we don't really need it. Let's do shitload of unison. Tie this to the level of everything as well. So we'll do 50% and 50%, which equals 100 in Phaseplant land. Okay. And we'll tie this to the detuning and the spread. And then whatever flanger, phaser, ensemble, fucking delay, reverb. Yes, sir. That is a riser right there. Now we just need some sidechain. What we ought to do as well is actually bounce that cymbal out. And then we'll reverse it. We're going to need to make that way louder. Okay. What did Carnage say? Way more, very much louder? Something like that. Okay. Sick. All right. Okay, so we need to sidechain everything. So let's sidechain. Stop auto monitoring, damn you. All right, group and dynamics. And let's do a kick. And duplicate and a snare. And boop. Okay. think that sounds pretty solid. So maybe we could change the ARP pattern here. To the more typical trap ARP. Blah, 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 blah. And yep, and all this gonna go over here. That sounds so horrible. Okay, and then, what was it? E major, bam. And then D major. Maybe make it faster? Sorry about that. I think it's probably master Q, honestly. So that 808 pattern sucks. Okay, and then we need to do ye old 808 glides, slow and fast. Yeah, for sure. No, I'm feeling that. That's a nice vibe. Clean, nice. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm not sure like why my nose is running today. Oh shit! Happy Halloween, by the way, guys. Sorry about that. I totally forgot. Yesterday was Halloween. It actually snowed here, so we were like stuck inside all day, which kind of sucks. But yeah, happy late Halloween. All right, so let's maybe. Maybe the pad can go up an octave as well, just to make a bit more sonic space for that 808, because I really want that to hit hard. And it needs bigger chords as well. So we'll do some chord inversions. Maybe move the root. Okay, 808 glides. We can just do, let's make this mono. Retrigger glide of, I don't know, fucking 120 milliseconds. Ba, ba, ba. What's in the key of G major? Is it B flat? Or G minor? Yeah, B flat. There we go. That sounded nice. Okay, let's see. So need a filter to open up over time. Not that. The cutoff. Same thing on that pad. Let's do, yeah, we'll do another low pass. So roughly same timing. This needs a beat tag. I think that needs to go up to the octave. I think that sounds solid. What's going on in chat? Happy Thriller Halloween. Thank you. Here in Edmonton, it didn't snow at all at +5°C. Nice. Yeah, no, it snowed here. Not much. We only probably maybe an inch and a half. Let's see. Hi, Cameron. I've watched your video about starting as a sound designer, and I have some questions. Is there any way to reach you through DM or something like this? Yeah, you can hit me up on my Discord. There's a link in the description to join my Discord. You can reach me there. No snow on the ground. Yeah. Still trying to figure out how to make 808s sound nice at higher octaves. They always lose character. I don't know if you're using sampled 808s or ones you synthesize yourself. But 808s at higher octaves, one of the big things I find is it's kind of about putting a limiter on it. So using something like a pretty hefty distortion or just a straight up limiter that you're brick walling really hard just to make the level consistent. Usually the best way to do it. But samples, just due to the way sampling works, typically it'll shorten the sample to get a higher pitch or lengthen it to get a lower pitch. So if you go up really high, it's going to make it pretty short. So you're not really going to have that bow character. You're going to have more of like a bow. You know what I mean? So that's something to watch out for. But yeah, I would experiment with limiters or just synthesizing your own. Because, you know, this 808 here, we can take it up pretty high before we start to get weird. But like I said, with a sample, it would shorten, and then, you know, up in this range, it wouldn't sound like that at all. It would just be like, you know, just a little tiny thing. Speaking of, I don't really like that pitch envelope. I want to make this 808 hit just a bit harder though. So one more trick while we're here. We're going to do the same thing. Let's do a bandpass. Okay, and boop, doop, and 15. There we go. That sounds better. Distortion for character. Yeah. Make it with synths. Yeah, so like I said, I would experiment with limiting compression, saturation especially, because distortion, in case you don't know, is actually compression. It's just without time factored in, you know, attack and release. So like a pretty beefy saturator can usually do the job. But like I said, you know, that's one of the hard things to balance is, you know, just volume over the range of the keyboard. But yeah, limiter or just a pretty beefy saturator will usually do a good job. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for the stream. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you learned some stuff. Like I said, I've wanted to do a Phaseplant stream for a bit, and just videos about Phaseplant, but just haven't really had time. And also really wanted to do just a beat producer focused sound design tutorial, because this stuff, like I said, is really not that hard. And I think you guys deserve to know it because, you know, it's just a way to kind of level up your beat making game. You know, you don't have to be some sound designer wizard to do this type of stuff. I mean, you could crank out drum kits this way all day. I mean, that's literally my job is like do this over and over every day and turn it into like samples to sell. And yeah, it's a great thing. You know, it gives you unique sounds that no one else has access to. And from here, you could, you know, take this up a notch like you may have seen me doing before on my channel is like, you know, layering real life recordings of drums and layering it with the synthesized drums or you know, using Foley. I do that all the time for my own sounds is, you know, I go record like crunching leaves and I'll layer that with the snare drum to get some really cool character. But yeah, you know, that's a really easy way to make just an entire trap. You know, that's one set of loops for a sample pack right there. I just made everything you heard from the ground up in, well, I guess, you know, like an hour and a half because I was talking through it. I mean, this is something I could do myself in maybe 45 minutes at most without having to talk about it because I have a lot of these saved as well. As you know, once you have this thing you use to design something in Serum or Phaseplant or whatever it may be, you know, once you do that, save it. So I'll save this kick patch and then I can go in and tweak it and change, you know, some effects and add some other stuff, layer it with other stuff, boom, whole new kick sample. And I could do that and crank out 20 kits for a sample pack in under an hour. So it's a great thing to do. You know, yeah. And like I said, I just wanted to put out my own video on trap sound design production just because there's a lot of great tutorials, but there's a lot of really garbage ones. And funny enough, a lot of the really garbage ones I've seen have been from like some of the bigger production channels. Not going to name names, but for real, guys, like, come on. So yeah, what's going on in chat? Will you put a gun sound? Sure, I'm sure I have a sample of that somewhere. Fresh Kid Blaze, no problem, man. Glad you liked it. Phaseplant sounds great. Dude, Phaseplant is a beast. I mean, dude, I use this synth for like just about everything now. Like when I'm doing sound design work, because like you saw, I mean, I made the synth patches, the 808, the snare, the hat, the kick, like everything was Phaseplant, and that's the power of it. And I really like it for that. And it's very fast and intuitive, but it's flexible in that it's so semi-modular that it's not like, you know, some of the other synths I used to use a lot, you know, where it's like it's stuck to what that synth can do. Just having that semi-modular ability really opens up Phaseplant for an enormous amount of sound design possibilities. And, you know, especially just in terms of time efficiency, it's very quick to just bang, bang, boom, 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 done. You know, now sound is over. Nice stream. Thanks. Thanks for the awesome stream. No problem. Do you have an affiliate link for Phaseplant in case I want to get it this month? I don't. I used to have, I used to be part of the Kilohearts affiliate program. Then some things changed and I tried setting it up and it just like, it was a lot of hoops to go through and I couldn't figure it out. And I think it just didn't work or something. So I just gave up on it. So I don't have an affiliate link, but I might try and rejoin that program in the future. God damn it, I just joined. No problem. Yeah, like I said earlier, guys, if you're getting here late, this entire stream will be reposted So you'll be able to watch it back. Like I said, I'm going to try and get in and do some timestamps for you guys so you can go back and just quickly reference, here's how I make a kick, here's how I make a snare, here's how I hit my microphone with my hand, stuff like that. So no problem. I'll go through the beat here in just a minute, though. You said 12.50 for the Starlink US. Oh yeah, for sound design stuff. Yeah, like I said in that video, about 12.15 an hour is usually relative starting wage I would find. Okay, so yeah, if you guys have any questions or just want to see something else really quick for beat production, sound design, definitely let me know. We can talk through it. But yeah, let's go ahead and take one more listen to the beat, just for anyone who's joining late. Hopefully that worked. Yeah, so let's take one more listen through the beat. Let's add a gun sound, and I'll leave it up to you guys. What should I use for a beat tag? I'll say whatever, and we'll make it a beat tag. So this is the beat so far. So yeah, that is a beat, and I made every sound you hear there on the stream. So if you want to rewatch this stream later, feel free. Like I said, I showed everything, how to design all of this using Phaseplant, but everything I showed is applicable aside the crash symbol. Everything else I showed in the stream you could do with just about any synth, Serum and others included. Okay, so I know in my Reddit drum kit collection, there's a bazillion trap samples that have gun sounds. Let's find one. There we go. It's kind of like the ultimate gun sound. Oh.
I'll put the gun to you. I ain't gonna rumble you.
Oh man, I really wish I knew how to rap. Like if I could just throw some bars down on this, I'd be so happy with myself. Okay, so we'd have to space that out a bit more. Should we just stop the bells entirely? Not happy with that. That needs compression. Just a bit. I don't like that reverb. I hate when sample packs have reverb on them. God, that drives me insane. There was one, though, that was like a clean copy of that. It was like one of the Phonotics. Yep, that one. That's probably from a movie or something. And we're going to need to EQ that. There's a bunch of crap in here. Yep. Close enough. Okay, and let's just kind of... Cool, I think that works. Damn, bro, you're a beast. Thanks. This is kind of like my job, though, so for me, I don't feel all that impressed, but... hopefully you enjoyed, and like I said, hopefully you guys learned something from this, because like I said, a lot of beat producers I think could really benefit from learning how to do this type of stuff, because it's not that hard, and it really makes your stuff stand out, because it's like, you have your own array of tools you can use to make as many free drum kits for yourself as you want. You could sell them too, but having this to do this from scratch is just such a great capability for producers to have, because it can give you just a unique edge on everything else. Traptegdo. Oh, is that? Yeah, was Super Traptendo. Whatever that channel is. What mic are you using? This is the Toner BM700. Toner sent me this guy. It's like under $50 on Amazon, if US dollars. Under $50, I'm pretty sure. Really solid mic. I like it. I use it for streaming and gaming and stuff all the time. LOL, yeah. Chakalak. Not sure what that's. I'm not sure what that is. You don't need a rapper. You can use female. Oh yeah. Chop voice, yeah. Could you make a series of how to do different artists? I've answered that before. I'm really not into like how to make sounds like, or how to make beats like, or how to make a bass like. There's enough channels doing that kind of stuff, and I don't really care for it. I don't want to sound like anyone else. I don't want to waste my time learning to sound like other people. I would just kind of rather do my thing, and and like as a sound designer, it's like that's kind of what I do anyway. And I just don't think it's that interesting, especially not enough to put my time into making that kind of stuff. I'd rather teach people cooler concepts rather than, give people tools to imitate someone else when they're never going to sound like someone else. It's better to learn to sound like you. And, it's better to, I find it's better to spend your own time doing that, challenge yourself to recreate something because you'll learn a lot that way. What was the name of the mic? Toner. Let me type this in the chat here. Let me get my channel back up. This is Toner BM700. But yeah, you can find this mic, like I said, on Amazon. I'm pretty sure it's under $50. Really decent little mic. Sounds really solid. And to process my voice, I'm just using a channel strip I built in Snap Heap. I'll show you the exact preset. So when you're listening to my YouTube videos, this is the patch that I use. Yeah, this guy right here. So without all this on it. So it doesn't have the distortion and the limiters tame back. So I believe my exact settings for my YouTube videos are somewhere around here. So basically just some compression, a little bit of EQ, because this mic has a bit of boxiness here. And then just a bit of a lift around here because it does sound a bit thin. And that's pretty much it. But yeah, that's my settings for YouTube. Yeah, so I guess let's throw in a beat tag because I just think it'd be... Yikes. Let's throw in a beat tag just because I think it would be really funny. Let's see. What's my beat tag? Yeah, you guys can leave me some suggestions here for a minute for a beat tag. Then we'll throw that in, and then I think we'll call that a stream because I got to go to the bathroom. Killing question. So, Serum and Kilohearts, not the same or... Yeah, I mean... Kilohearts and Serum or not Kilohearts, Phaseplant and Serum are two pretty different beasts. Because I saw some people say like, oh, Phaseplant is the Serum killer, and I don't really think that's correct because Serum and Phaseplant have pretty different, I guess, philosophies and approaches. Serum is a very workhorse synth and does a lot, and it's very powerful, and it relies a lot on its like phase distortion modes and stuff like that. Whereas Phaseplant is a bit more open, but it doesn't have, like the reverb filter, the combs filter, the phaser filters and stuff like that. So kind of different beasts. I would like to see some of the stuff from Serum, especially like the weird filter types. I would love to see those in Phaseplant, but you can use LFO tool or Serum effects to put those on anything. So, different tools, different approaches. I personally like Phaseplant more. And I think part of that is because I hate looking at Serum. I have to use it so much for work that I just get tired of it. And also, like, just as a sound designer, I think Phaseplant's more flexible just since it is semi-modular. I can add a lot of stuff going on. I mean, there's videos, you can check it out on Kilohearts Instagram of like the one note songs. And like, you can't do that in Serum. There's no way. But, I use both synths. I think they're both great, just different philosophies on sound, Thanks, Cameron, you're the best. Night. Oh, later, dude. Thanks. V theory. I need like, I think Alicia's home. I should get Alicia to come in here and be like, V theory. Or I'll just do it. I don't care. Might as well. All right, let's do that really quick. I guess we could just like, you're listening to V Theory, except I sound like Cartman. Okay, I'm going to have to disconnect my voice meter really, really quick, or else it's not going to work. Okay, so you're not going to be able to hear this, but the sound should come back on. Oh, it's got to reload my plugins. Do. Sure, I guess we'll do that. Oh yeah, that's my dog, Callie. She's right, but I think Alicia's home, so she wants to go out and say hi to Alicia. All right, let's do this beat tag really quick. You're listening to V Theory. Yeet. Love it. Okay, let's go back to voice meter. And this is going to take a minute because voice meter takes forever to load. Audio watermark, yeah. Vida, ooh, from loud to girly. Yeah, I don't really know what that voice. I don't know. I wish I was like cool enough to do like character voices or something, but I can't. I just like vaguely sound like Mufasa, I guess. I don't know. Okay, all right, that's back. So now we need to edit this. Auto monitors off. Okay, so we're gonna need generic. Beat tag processing. So let's do like 4-to-1. I hate this so much already. This is perfect. Okay, so we need a noise gate.
You're listening to V Theory.
Yeet. Oh, that's so bad. I love it.
You're listening to V Theory. You're listening to V Theory.
Yep, that's it.
You're listening to V Theory. You're listening to V Theory. You're listening to V Theory.
This offends every sensibility I have as a human being.
You're listening to V Theory.
Yeet. The man who voiced Darth Vader also voiced Mufasa. Yep, he did.
You're listening to V Theory.
Yeet. Okay, so that the yeet has to be on a separate track because we got to get rid of the delay for that one. I mean, we could just automate it, but I'm lazy. Plus, part of me wants to save this and just throw this on everything.
You're listening to V Theory. You're listening to V Theory.
Yeet.
You're listening to V Theory.
Yeet. Yeet. Oh, that's so stupid.
You're listening to V Theory. You're listening to V Theory.
Yeet. I'm pretty sold on that. That's good. That's good stuff. All right, let's adjust this compressor.
Yeet.
I feel like that needs to be more like the telephone effect. I like how much time I'm spending on this. That's it. That's it, boys. I love it.
You're listening to V Theory.
Needs more Melodyne. Oh yeah, we should just auto-tune the yeet like super hard. So we need the Neptune.
You're listening to V Theory.
That's kind of weird. Maybe without the distortion.
Yeet.
Oh, that's really dumb.
Yeet. Yeet. Yeet.
Let's put it in the key of the song.
Yeet. Yeet. Yeet.
Maybe I'm just not doing enough to kick in the auto-tune, but let's see.
You're listening to V Theory. Yeet.
I like how obnoxiously loud the beat tag is, though. All right, let's turn that back up. All right, mastering effects are on, and then I think that's going to be the end of the stream. Drop some bars. Dude, I wish I knew how to rap. Like, I've worked with a lot of rappers over the years, and, like, I don't know. When I was younger, I didn't really have much of an appreciation for it, but man, is it an art. There was one guy I worked with, Central, and I mean, just the way that some of these rappers have these improvisational skills, especially lyrically, just it's like a pretty formidable thing to work with. You know, like these are very talented people, and especially just like the dictation and the clarity they can speak with at such rapid paces is insane. But yeah, like the improvisational skills too, second to none. And it's like, you know, I've worked with a lot of great musicians too, but rappers, man, are one of those ones that's just like, damn, like it's impressive. So I really wish I could rap. I don't get it. Ice, la 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 la, mama. Yeah. Okay, let's take one last listen to this beat, and I think we're good. Let's go back. There we go. Nice. I love that. That is great. I might have to save that. That beat tag especially, that's obnoxiously stupid. I love it. But yeah, you know, from there it would just be kind of like duplicate it and beat done. You're fast. You finished your track. Thanks. But yeah, guys. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Like I said, it will be posted later. I hope this helps you guys with your own sound design stuff. If you do beat production, hip hop, whatever. Pretty straightforward stuff. Like I said, you know, experiment. You know, take this concept and run with it. You know, just try layering real drums or vinyl drums or Foley sounds that you record with your phone. Whatever, you know, you can do. There's so much room to make your own sounds and get really creative with it without a lot of effort. So you have to, you know, push yourself a bit, but I think it's nice because you end up with sounds no one else is going to have. You end up, you know, learning some new techniques that you can implement in mixing and whatnot. Plus, you know, you have sounds no one else has, and I think it's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun too. And then, you know, you end up making a shitload of drum samples and you have your own giant personal collection of stuff. That's what I have. I've bazillion samples that I've made over the years that, you know, saves me a lot of money because I don't have to buy sample packs. But yeah, so I guess if anyone has any remaining questions or whatever, now is the time. I guess we'll leave this open for about 10 minutes. And then I've really got to go to the bathroom. So yeah, I think that'll be it. And then I think Callie is over there waiting by the door to go see Alicia. It's what I want to do, record with nature sound. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, even just something like using your cell phone. You know, when I first really got into it, I used my phone. I still use my phone all the time to, you know, record like a random sound that I'm just out and about and was like, oh, that sounds cool. But otherwise, you know, a dedicated field recorder is a great investment. I love mine. I have the Zoom H4n Pro. Couple $100 worth every penny. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going to have to save that beat tag because I'm going to have to work on it a bit. I'm not totally happy with the sound of it. I'm going to have to listen to some more beat tags, but I think it's close to what I want. It's so obnoxious, but, you know, pretty good. Have you done the analog butt clap experiment yet? I have not. I need to like sit down and do something like that. I really want to do, like, for April Fools, I want to try and do something really stupid that turns out really great. I just haven't really thought of like what I want to do yet. But analog butt clap is on my list of things to do. He wants to be. Yeah. No, I that's the thing. I went to the bathroom before I started streaming. Man, I'm like dying right now. Not better to use the Zoom H1 or 5. Well, they're pretty different. The Zoom H1 is a pretty entry level thing. There's nothing really wrong with it. It's not going to be like as high quality as some of their upper tier stuff. But you know, I mean, I personally would say the H4n Pro is probably the best middle of the road for everybody. The H1 is plenty good. There's also, I want to say it's a Sony one. That's somewhere in between the price points of like the H1 versus the H4. Or maybe it's Audio-Technica, I can't remember. But you know, there's a lot of options out there. I would just go listen to some sound demos, but for my money, I found the Zoom stuff has always been the best. But you know, as you get into the more expensive stuff, there's really nice stuff. But you know, ultimately you end up with a giant field recorder and field mics and whatever. Because I use my H4n Pro, but now I use my Deity S mic too a lot out in the field for recording, which I'm going to do some videos on soon because I'm starting a Seasons sound kit relatively soon. So it's going to be like a winter inspired sample pack, a summer sample pack, a fall sample pack, a spring sample pack. So yeah, I'm probably going to do some videos kind of showing the making of those. Speaking of plug really quick, I just dropped my new sample pack today. Which is the Meridian pack, and it is the ASMR sample pack I've been talking about for a bit. So the ASMR pack is out now. It's on my website. The link is scrolling down here. There's Alicia. Hi. No, you're behind my chat screen. How you doing? Bye. No. Okay. Anyways, yeah. So yeah, the Meridian pack is out now, so you can check that out if you need some new sounds. I really like that pack. It's pretty cool. Do you record samples in mono or stereo? It depends. Typically, I record in mono when I'm using my field mics. Sometimes I take my mics out. I have a couple stereo pairs of microphones I might use in the field. The H4n Pro has stereo capsules on the top. More often than not, I would say I record in mono. And usually it's just because I'm using one microphone. But stereo, the only times I really record in stereo is if something is a stereo sound by nature, something is moving from one side to the other, or it's just like a room thing. But whenever I'm doing stereo, 9 times out of 10, it's because it's an ambience, just like the sound of the woods by my house or the sound of cars going on the street. But yeah, for most, meat and potato sounds, like it's a percussive sound or whatever, it's going to be in mono. The only other time I record stereo typically is if it's an instrument. So I might, if I'm doing like a xylophone or like one of those children's like toy pianos or something, that kind of stuff I might do in stereo, but most of the time I work in mono, just because a lot of sounds don't really benefit all that much from stereo, especially once we get into processing, because I'm going to add reverb and stuff later on usually, and that kind of gives it that stereo feel. Smartphone is free. Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, like I said, I use my smartphone all the time for recording random samples. Some of the sounds in my music and some of the sounds in my sample packs as well are actually just sounds I recorded with my phone and processed. But your phone's a very powerful thing. It's a field recorder. It's a notation thing. It's a personal assistant. Your phone can do a lot of stuff. Stream is still on. Yeah. I just figured I'd do some Q&A here for a bit. One question, is there any good groups dedicated to sound design? There's a subreddit, sound design, which is actually focused more on like film and game sound design. But if you are interested in the sound design subject, that's a good one. In terms of like sound design, if you're speaking in terms of like music production, beat production, that kind of stuff, not really. There's a couple subreddits like the EDM one, trap production, making hip hop. Those are some good ones that have some good tips here and there. But yeah, as a whole, there's not really any one source for like people to join. I know there's like some Facebook groups and stuff too, but I don't really know. But also, I'm really not a super like social person. I don't actively seek out people to talk to. But yeah, a lot of the subreddits, I would say, there's some really good posts. And then forums, even some of the old forums like DAWg on Acid has some amazing sound design tips. If you dig around, there's a lot of stuff out there. You'd send your pack to Native and Splice. I've not sent a pack to Native Instruments or Splice. I've never worked with Splice myself, but I've done work with a lot of sample companies. One of my kits is one that's actually branded with my name, is the Sonic Mechanics Wave Trap one. That's like one of the first sample packs I ever really did, like seriously. And then outside of that, I've contributed to a lot of packs for other companies, but I've never done anything with like Black Octopus or Splice or Native Instruments or anything like that. I would love to do that someday, but for the time being, no, I haven't done that. Calculated chat screen layout. Yeah, no, she walked in at like just the right spot and didn't open the door just enough to where she was like totally covered by the chat. IDM forums, that's another great one, yeah, for sure. Thinking about getting the Elgato HD60S USB 3.0 game capture for streaming. I have no idea what that is. Sorry, I couldn't even tell you what that is. For streaming my setup, I just use OBS, and then I use Voicemeeter for the sound, because Windows is weird about audio in DAWs. So the DAW runs to Voicemeeter, which has a virtual cable that I then send to OBS. And then within OBS, I'm running Kilohearts Snap Heap to process my voice. And yeah, that's pretty much my streaming setup. I've never used a capture card. And I game on PC as well. So like if I'm ever doing like a gaming thing, which I've only done like once, I want to do that again at some point, but I've only done that once and I just used OBS for that. But yeah, okay, so I think that's pretty much all the time I've got today. I've got to go eat dinner and stuff here. So yeah, if anyone has any burning questions, now is probably the last time. I got to go to the bathroom. Otherwise, yeah, like I said, hope you enjoyed the stream. Hope you learned some stuff. It will be posted. If you would like to review it, I will try and put timestamps as well, so you can kind of quickly navigate and reference things. And if you guys enjoyed this, like beat production focused stuff, like, you know, more specific to like trap and whatever, I'd be happy to do more videos on it because this is kind of my bread and butter for like my job because, you know, everyone's a beat producer anymore. So, you know, I've got a lot of ways to make sounds like this. Thanks for the suggestions. Yeah, no problem. Thank you for the stream. Let you go, bathroom. Thanks, I appreciate it. The stream cable. Yeah. The virtual cable is what I use for Voicemeeter. But yeah. Thanks for what you do here. Yeah, no problem. But yeah, so I think that'll do it, guys. I really gotta go. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the stream. It'll be posted later. Tomorrow's my birthday, so I will probably not be around if you're in my Discord, but I might try and do like some kind of birthday stream later at night, but I don't really know yet. But yeah, so hope you enjoyed the stream. I will catch you guys later. Hope you enjoyed this, and maybe I'll post these sounds in my Discord later. I don't know. But yeah, so I think that's it, guys. So thanks for hanging out. Good to see you guys, and I'll catch you guys again soon.